Hey guys, welcome back to World of Tanks. My name is Bruce and today I want to present the entry tank for the new British wheeled mediums, the Cruiser Mark IV. Furthermore, I will give you the current statistics of the new wheeled mediums and also my opinion. Will they fill the gap between a medium and a light tank? Let's find out in this video. Keep in mind, as of now we are talking about the common test server, so everything is still subject to change. Nonetheless, we can expect those tanks to appear more or less close to how they are right now in the game. First of all, let's talk about the new tech tree. So as of now, the new British wheeled medium tank tech tree starts on tier 5 with the AEC. So what you need to do is you need to get the Cruiser 4 into your garage, play this tank and unlock about 13k XP in order to instantaneously be able to unlock the AEC on tier 5, and then you can play all the way up to the tier 10 Concept 5 tank. Alright, so this is how the Cruiser 4 looks in my garage, and the first thing you want to do is you want to uncheck Accelerate Crew Training in order to get XP that you can then use in order to research the tier 5 AEC once it hits the live server. Now, I prepared my crew for the upcoming British wheeled medium tanks. This is why I selected Brothers in Arms and then the view range skills on the commander, and then as of now I selected designated target on the gunner, and then I'm working on concealment, and then as far as the driver goes I selected smooth ride and then concealment, and then last but not least on the loader I selected Brothers in Arms, then intuition, and now I'm working on safe stowage, but I might reconsider this choice once those tanks hit the live server. As you can see, I play this tank with coated optics and with vents plus a turbocharger because I want to boost the overall good mobility of this tank. And as I'm playing this tank, as I'm using the mobility of this tank, I really do not want to set up this tank with binos and stand still in a bush, but I want to keep moving around, giving my adversaries a hard time hitting me, and then what I need is coated optics in order to boost my view range. Alright, here we are in the first game with the Cruiser 4, and in the first game I want to talk about this tank, as this will be the tank that you need to play in order to select or in order to get the XP that you need to unlock the first British wheeled medium tank, which will be the AEC on tier 5. So the Cruiser 4 is a tier 4 tank, and let's first of all take a look at the weaponry of this tank. So this tank features an autoloader gun with 2 shots with 2 shells per shot. So you click once and the tank will fire 2 shots, and then you click you click again and then the tank will fire 2 more shots. So kind of like an auto reloader, if you will, or an autoloader gun. So this tank has a lackluster penetration of 68 on the standard ammunition. So what you want to do is you want to load premium ammunition in order to boost your penetration to 112, which is sufficient to reliably pen most of the tier 5 tanks and even tier 6 tanks. You make 60 damage with each shot, and so you have a clip potential of 4 times 60, which is 240, which is insane for tier 4. The overall DPM is 1753, and then the gun is not too precise, 0.41 dispersion, but the aim time is great with 1.82 seconds, and you fire the shots, or the intra clip reload is only 0.5 seconds, so you can deal 240 damage in a very short period of time, which makes this gun very capable on tier 4. And I would go so far to say that this tank is really a seal clubbing tank on tier 4. So look at this, bam bam bam. Okay, we in this case we actually only make 2 shots, but the gun is really capable for a tier 4 tank. Now let's talk about the mobility. This tank is also very mobile, 48 kph top speed and a power to weight ratio of 27.67, which is pretty nice. And as I played with the turbo, the top speed is even increased on my tank. Now it has 20 degrees of gun elevation and 15 degrees of gun depression, so this tank is super flexible when playing on ridge lines. So yeah, all in all, I have to say I think this is a hidden gem on tier 4 and a super capable tank on tier 4. Now when it comes to the rest of the stats, no armor whatsoever, only 30 millimeters on the front. When it comes to the hull, but also to the turret, and then 540 hit points, but this is I would say, yeah, standard on tier 5, and then 340 meters of view range. Now I play this tank with coated optics, not with binos, because I want to use the mobility of this tank. And yeah, as you can see in this replay, I think mobility is the strength of this tank, alongside with its firepower with this 40 millimeter Bofors gun. Now here in this case I make a mistake. I use auto aim. You should try to avoid auto aim for the most part in order to lead your shots when your adversary is moving, but I get a second chance and we can reduce the HP of the looks to quite a significant level. Now there are only 2 tanks remaining, and due to my mobility I can arrive there as the first tank and then spot those tanks and then maybe make damage. Now notice how quickly this tank aims in. So this is what I was talking about when I said 1.82 seconds of aim time, which is pretty nice on a tier 4 tank. And so yeah, at the end of the game we are able to increase our damage to 774, and notice that this game is only 4 minutes long. So maybe we'll even have the chance to increase it further, because we still have to find the Panzer 1C in this game, and maybe we'll get some more damage. And for the Panzer 4 I can of course go back to the standard ammunition. All right, here go. He will be aiming at me, but that is not a problem. Okay, he kills my gunner, which is not a problem, and we can increase the damage to 1000 in this game. And this game only lasted for 4.5 minutes. So yeah, I think this game showed the capabilities of this tank, and I played this tank now a couple of times, and I think I did not have a single game with less than 1000 damage on a tier 4 tank, which is insane. So let's jump to the second game, and in the second game I want to talk about the new British wheeled light tank, British wheeled medium tanks, and about their overall play style. And in the third game I will give you my thoughts on them and some interesting comparison to other tanks. Yeah, what I was basically thinking about, and my assumption. All right, so let's jump into the next game. All right, second game in the Cruiser 4. We are spawning on Ruinberg, and of course I will try to help my team on the medium flank, which is the 9 and the 0 lane. And as I said, I want to talk about the new British wheeled medium tanks. So let's first of all compare them all together from tier 5 up to tier 10, and I also include the GSOR 1010, the British tier 8 wheeled premium tank. And so the first thing that you can notice when it comes to firepower, those tanks have a lackluster DPM altogether from tier 5 up to tier 10. So this will be one of the downside on those British wheeled medium tanks. Now, on the other hand, the penetration values are rather good, and those guns will be relatively precise. So I think this will be one of the strengths of those new British wheeled tanks. If you take a look at the gun handling, as you can see, all those tanks will have more or less precise guns. Of course, the mid-tier and high-tier tanks will have super precise guns, not so much the tier 5 and tier 6 tank, but those tanks also have a good gun handling, because the gun handling on the lower tier tanks is in general lackluster. That's just how the game is designed. So all those tanks will feature a very precise gun, and alongside with the penetration values, this will be the strength of those new British wheeled tanks. I think we have enough indication or enough statistic to say that this is the playstyle and this is what Wargaming intends them to be. So precise guns and good penetration value. I would say good alpha damage, not exceptionally good alpha damage, but precise guns with good sniping capabilities in general, with good alpha damage, but with a lackluster DPM. Now, when it comes to mobility, those tanks will be relatively mobile. So as you can see, 60 kph top speed, and then the tier 9 and tier 10 tank actually have 65 kph top speed. And the power to weight ratio is also good, at least when it comes to the top tier tanks. Now, actually those, the power to weight ratio is good on all tanks. So I was looking at the weight of the tanks, but the power to weight ratio of all tanks is above average, reaching from 20.71 from the AEC up to 25.22 on the Concept 5. So all those tanks will have a good mobility. Now, the gun resistance values are not the best ones, and I think this will be a limiting factor. So those tanks will not be the fastest on the battlefield, and we'll take a look at this in the last game. But those tanks will be mobile, but they will not shine when it comes to mobility, and part of this will be the relatively mediocre terrain resistance values. Now, when it comes to armor, as you can see, those tanks will not have good armor, and they will be able, all the other tanks will be able to reliably penetrate those tanks even with standard ammunition. Now, the good thing about those tanks, on the other hand, is they have better armor than, for example, compared to light tanks, at least when it comes to the frontal armor. So the good thing is that they will not be susceptible to HE ammunition, once again, at least when it comes to the frontal armor of the tank, talking about the turret armor as well as about the hull armor. So this is good about those new tanks. And then the thing which is lackluster about those tanks is the camo value. Now the view range is getting better from tier to tier. So as you can see, from 350 on tier 5 up to 400 meters of view range on tier 10, and it's increasing 10 meters on every tier. But the camo value is lackluster, at least when it comes to the top tier tanks. So as you can see, the Concept 5 has 10.43 camo, and that is rather disappointing and lackluster. And I will talk about this in the third video in this, or the third replay in this video. And so this is a bit lackluster and a bit disappointing, because I thought those tanks would be, or the goal of those tanks would be to have a kind of light tank medium hybrid, but as it seems, this is not the case, simply because those tanks are super tall and the camo value is on the, let's say, below average side, at least when it comes to the high tier tanks, and here especially the tier 9 tank and the tier 10 tank. The tier 8 tank, the FSV Scheme Alpha, actually has good camo value, 18.3, but then it's decreasing, and this is the tier 7 tank, and then the Saladin does have 16.13, and then it further decreases on the tier 9 and tier 10 tank. And so yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I mean, all those statistics can be changed, because those are the statistics of the test server, but as it seems, they will not be the best scouting tanks, and even tracked medium tanks will be better scouts than those tanks, and that is once again a bit disappointing. However, all in all, I'm looking forward to those tanks, and I would play them all, and I will make videos about them, and I'm looking forward. But I think those tanks will not be OP. They will be balanced, and they will not kind of have a huge impact on the current meta in World of Tanks. All right, meanwhile, we are kind of annihilating the adversary team. We already made 1400 damage, and yeah, so once again, a gameplay which shows the strength of this tank. So the good thing about the new tech tree is that this tech tree starts with a very capable tank, which is the Cruiser 4 on tier 4. So let's now jump into the last game. Okay, third and last game in the Cruiser 4. We are spawning once again on Mannerheim Line as in the first game, so we'll simply repeat our gameplay and see how much damage we can make. Now, I promised you some tank comparisons, and let's first of all talk about the tier 10, the Concept 5. So I want to compare this tank to the Leopard 1 and the E50M, and I will show you why. So let's talk about the firepower. As you can see, the Concept 5 does have weaker firepower than the Leopard 1 due to its inferior DPM, but then also due to its inferior penetration value and also shell velocity. Now, when it comes to gun handling, this tank is better than the E50M, at least when it comes to aim time, but also inferior to the Leopard 1. And so, despite the aim time, the gun handling is actually not, I would say, not, it's inferior to the Leopard 1 and also not significantly better, maybe a bit better than compared to the E50M. Now, here comes the interesting portion. Take a look at the mobility. So, of course, this tank is more mobile than the E50M. However, not to a point where I would say it really matters. Because the forward speed is a bit higher. So is the power to weight ratio. But take a look at the terrain resistance values. On hard terrain, it's 0.906 as of now. Once again, those are the statistics of the current test server. But take a look at the terrain resistance values on medium and soft terrain. They are so bad. And so this means that all in all, this tank goes 39 on hard terrain, 29 on medium terrain, and 20 on soft terrain. And the Leopard 1 is better in this regard, and also the E50M. So what I want to tell you is this tank is not as mobile as it is supposed to be, in my opinion, and it is not significantly more mobile than the E50M. However, the E50M does carry a significant amount of armor with its tank, and so the E50M is much more flexible because of its armor, and it can play much more aggressively and is the much more flexible tank. Now, take a look at the camo values of those tanks. The Concept 5 has 10.43 as of now. The Leopard 1 is much better, and the E50M, with all its superior armor, also gets a value of about 10. So when it comes to spotting, the Concept 5 is actually not better than the E50M, and this kind of surprised me because I thought that this tank is kind of a medium light tank hybrid, which fills the role, let's say, like a oooBRUCEooo on tier 8 but on tier 10, which is not the case. So yes, you get a very precise gun and a very interesting tank, but according to the statistics, the mobility is actually not too good, and the spotting abilities are inferior to other tanks. And so the question is, why should you play this tank? If you want to play a sniper tank, then go ahead and play the Leopard 1. And if you want to play a versatile tank, which you can play aggressively, then play the E50M, which also has a very precise gun, but which has significantly better armor, and also a mobility which is not too lackluster compared to the Concept 5. So I thought, well, maybe it's about the tier 10 tank, and maybe we should simply compare the tier 9 tank, and maybe the GSOR 1006 is the hidden gem in this tech tree. Well, let's compare to the Leopard PTA and the AMX 30. And as you can see, firepower-wise, the British wheel tank is inferior. And then when it comes to gun handling, of course, it's a bit better than the AMX 30, but and also a bit better than the Leopard PTA, but not significantly. And so, I mean, the dispersion values are quite better, okay? So this tank has the best gun in that regard, but it packs some significant disadvantages. And once again, take a look at the mobility and take a look at the terrain resistance values. And so once again, this tank is actually inferior when it comes to mobility compared to the Leopard PTA and also the AMX. So the AMX is the more mobile tank. It actually features some nicely sloped armor, which lets you bounce shots, and which so all in all, you can play much more aggressively with the AMX 30. Plus, it has the much better DPM, and so it is, in my opinion, the much better tank. Now, let's take a look at the camo value Once again, 12 compared to approximately 15 on the Leopard PTA as well as the AMX 30. So once again, it's not the GSO, which is the let's say the hidden gem on this tech tree. So let's go down a tier and let's talk about the Saladin on tier 8 compared to the T-44 with the 100mm gun, which has 250 alpha damage, and the Indian Panzer, which also has 250 alpha damage, and then the KPZ-07RH, which is kind of a light tank medium hybrid, if you ask me. So once again, inferior DPM, and the gun handling is much better. So here it looks as if this is working on this tier, so on tier 8. Now, when it comes to mobility, the tank is actually much more mobile than compared to the T-44 and the Indian Panzer, at least when it comes to the power to weight ratio. But once again, the terrain resistance values are actually not too good, and so we'll have to find out whether this tank is actually more mobile, and it's not as mobile as the KPZ-07RH. And when it comes to armor, this tank is also lackluster. All the other tanks do have at least a bit of armor with which you can bounce at least a shot here and there. And when it comes to camo, this is where the Saladin is the better tank on this tier. So for me, it looks like the play style of those tanks. So my understanding was that the light tanks have a niche in between a medium and a light tank, but this is, as it seems, only true for the tier 8 and the tier 7 tank, and not so much for the high tier tanks, which is kind of disappointing. But we'll have to see how those tanks are and how those tanks work out once they arrive on the live server. But so far, I'm a little bit disappointed from the tier 9 and also the tier 10 tank, but we'll see how it goes. Now, I made a video about the tier 10 tank, and I really adored the playstyle of this tank, and it's kind of controversial to the statistics on this tank that I am talking about right now. But we'll see, and we'll have to find out once those tanks hit the live server. And yeah, I simply wanted to show you the statistics and show you that those tanks, at least the high tier tanks, are not really good at spotting, and so it's really hard to say how the playstyle of those tanks is. They kind of are a supporting tank, but then once again, they are inferior when it comes to firepower, mobility, and of course armor, and also spotting ability. So yeah, we'll simply have to see. Meanwhile, we are achieving 1300 damage with the Cruiser 4. Once again, a fantastic tank, which is really capable of seal clubbing on tier 4. And the only thing you have to do is you have to load premium ammunition. So once again, I'm looking forward to the wheeled British medium tanks, and we'll have to see where the strength of those tanks are. Yeah, let's see, can we get another shot onto the... No, we cannot, but we made 1400 damage on a tier 4 tank, which is superior if you ask me. So what I would recommend is play the Cruiser 4. It's a really fun tank. Uncheck accelerated crew training, save about 13k XP so that you can unlock the AEC on tier 5 instantaneously once those British wheeled medium tanks hit the live server, and then grind this line and tell me what you think about those new wheeled medium tanks. Alright guys, that was it for today with a little video about the Cruiser Mark IV and the new British wheeled medium tank tech tree. What do you think about this tech tree? Will you start to grind it? Do you like it so far? Do you like the tanks? Do you like the balancing? Just leave a comment in the comment section down below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Consider subscribing to my channel, and I see you next time in another World of Tanks video.